Ish, a lot of people have been talking about ProspectEngine. What is ProspectEngine and what's you and Simon got to do with it?
Well, ProspectEngine is an outbound sales service or bolt-on to existing estate agency models, offering lead management and prospecting services for booking in valuations and listing appointments.
Okay, so when did you start it, and more importantly, why did you start it?
So we started, we're just about to enter into our third year. Okay. So we started 2 years ago, 2017 in March.
Okay.
And the whole concept, or the whole reason behind setting up ProspectEngine, was reading an article about Foxtons generating 40% of their business from their historic database. With my previous business, Properties Unique, we had around 95% occupancy. We were a service department and corporate housing business. But I had shed loads of historic data that was never really worked because we were dealing with low-hanging fruit. So I was sort of guilty of not working my database as well as I should. So I thought, let's set up a company that does just that.
Okay, so spring of 2017. When did this reprobate come on board?
Shortly, very early on, really. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah,
Simon?
of course. I mean, obviously,
Why did you join? Why did you join in?
yeah. Mr. Proptech Guru invested in probably the most analog of all services. I'll tell you what it probably was. I've been as guilty as this as almost every supplier in the world. You'll know these wonderful words. You just need one more instruction to pay for this. I heard myself say it a million times. And actually, the thing about this business is where you're paying for the vast majority on it purely on the fact that you are generating those appointments was, from a salesperson's point of view, the easiest one there. Listening to all sorts of brilliant consultants and people like Josh Fegan, he who controls the appointments, gets the most appraisals, usually wins the day. And this is what that's all about. And for me, it's very simple. If you look at this here, salespeople are usually openers or they're closers. Doesn't matter where you are. There's very few that can straddle both
Unicorns.
sides. Unicorns, exactly. We're not talking about Brexit now, Chris. Leave that alone, please.
There's time.
Honestly, you stop going on about it. You're really doing people's heads in. So, my old compadre Peter Fenwick was the best closer in the business, and I was always exceptional at opening the doors here. And a lot of that runs true with estate agency as well. And I would suggest the vast majority of people are the ones that like to, right, let's go and close this down now, and they don't focus on the rest of it, and it leads to a complete feast and famine regime.
Yes.
You're busy, you don't prospect, nothing in the diary, then you prospect the hell out of it.
Why do you think there hasn't been a ProspectEngine style business in UK estate agency?
Bloody hard.
It is a tough gig. Managing salespeople as a rule is quite a challenging prospect. To answer your question, I do not know, because I do think it's a fantastic idea. It's been so warmly received.
Because a lot of people are on my radar. I'm in a very lucky position, humble, a bit like yourself, because I take after you, Simon, for being humble.
Hungry and humble.
You've had your lunch in the game room. The people are talking about you, and I've not heard one bad word, and I mean not one bad word.
That is really, really, really good to hear.
We'll change that, mate. Don't worry.
Yeah, this time. No, I think because, like Simon mentioned, we are a cost per lead model. Yes. So you're only paying on results. So you pay for market appraisal appointments. You pay a slight sort of incentive if that MA lists or that valuation lists, and then listing appointments. 20% of our bookings are listing appointments. So, God, we've brought to market just shy of £700 million worth of property.
At 1%, that's £7 million worth of fees.
That's right. And a lot of that
we probably should have tied it to the...
We probably should have, yeah. But...
And that's for 20 firms, isn't it? 20 estate agency
brands.
brands.
It's across around 250 branches, something like that.
That's nothing to sniff at.
It's not, no. We're very proud of that. And
so whereabouts are you based?
So we're based up in sunny Newcastle.
Okay.
we're not all Geordies, so we've got about six.
That's one of your most common questions.
It is
isn't it?
actually, believe it or not,
It's one of the most trusted accents around.
It is. It is. Well, it's statistically the most trusted accent in the UK. But look, we have a real mixed bag of staff. We have Scottish, Southerners, Geordies. A lot of our Geordies are my top.
You were literally
sellers.
just thinking of every demographic.
Yeah, I'm trying to cover it. I'm trying to
Without
cover
being
it all off.
offensive.
Have you got any Welsh? You don't want
We don't at the moment, but although I do get mistaken for Welsh on occasions with the accent.
okay.
But
Money Penny seemed to do okay, by the way. if you
yeah,
don't mind me saying.
absolutely. I think one of the benefits of having our centre based up north is that the Northerners generally have a knack for building great rapport. And building rapport quickly,
Indeed.
and that is probably key to a sales operation.
Well, I went to university in Sheffield, and someone would tell you their life story within 3 minutes of being at the bus stop.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's a natural
Serving you breakfast.
or nicking it, one of the two.
I tell you, one of the lovely things is though, is it was like it has become the sense of it's almost like we haven't had to do the statistical analysis, look at where the most trustworthy is. We know that the amount of companies investing in these telemarketing, telesales environments up there it has led to a cost. It's led to a hotbed of excellence for that, and Ish has been able to tap into that. And so scalability, of course, is one of the key things for me about this. A lot of people have gone down the route of doing client services departments, but have found it very difficult in places like Reading, London, and everything else to get people on board.
Client service is basically a posh word for a call centre that rings out people on old vowels and old mailing lists and things like that. So, what have you learned in those nearly 2 years?
Well, I've learnt a lot. Obviously, I've been in and around a state agency most of my working career. But what I have learnt a lot about is the intricacies and idiosyncrasies of each and every agent that we work with. We work with pretty much every CRM out there, but you will have
it's probably worth talking about there, though, isn't it? That is a key distinction. So there will be a lot of telemarketing, telesales companies out there. You'll chuck them a spreadsheet, you'll chuck them some reports, they'll just whistle through that, and it's not much more than a data cleansing episode. But what Ish has been able to really tag into is create a hybrid service. Hybrid is the posh thing to talk about in everything, isn't it? Whereby it's not just about a professional sales operation, but they are logging in using the agency's own CRM system itself. They have the most up-to-date information there. We're keeping people up to date, GDPR compliant, that's really a massive.
Absolutely, you mentioned their data cleansing. I mean, that is a caveat of the service. Really, we get GDPR compliant verbal opt-ins for future contact. So that's an added benefit of the service. So not only will we provide you with appraisals and listings from your underutilised data, we'll also get that cleansed right down so the data that you do have is more workable and more buoyant.
And what have you learnt in terms of how the phone calls go, from 2 years ago to now? Have you new systems, new scripts? We'll talk about those later in more detail.
Yeah, I mean, performance management is a big part of our day-to-day operation up north. So we're consistently developing our staff. I think talking about scripts, I don't like the word script. I think that they are conversations to be had. And although you can have a loose outline of what you want to get out of that conversation, it is all about conditional selling, I think
it's about a bit counterlogical, actually, because one of the things that I remember when you first started talking about it, the average time spent on a call when you've actually connected has dropped down, and yet our figures in terms of performance has gone up. And that's because we really understand because people's time is the most important resource. They are all time poor. So being relevant on the call, keeping it down to the right time, literally, look, I've just got you for a couple of minutes. And just because somebody likes to talk to you doesn't mean that that's going to be an opportunity there. So yes, keep it relevant, keep it right, but don't overdo it.
Does the same person ring back the same person all the time, or is it a...
It really does depend on the agency. It depends on the size of the data set that we have to go at, what level of service they're after. So if they're having full lead management, where we handle online val leads, Rightmove, Zoopla val leads.
Well, you do all that as well?
We do indeed. Immediate response within 5 minutes. So let's say we get an online valuation request at 10 in the morning.
Yep.
We'll get a phone call at 5 past 10. If we don't make contact on an initial attempt, they'll then be diaried to call back after 5:30 because our offices are open until 8. So they have there's a fine line between persistence and aggression, and I think we skirt that line pretty nicely. They get up to 10 calls in the first 6 weeks. On average, it's taking between 4 and 5 calls to get in touch with any new lead, no matter what the lead source is. So unless your agency is making that level of calls to each of those new leads, you will definitely be losing an element of conversion
So
on that.
where do most of your phone calls come from? Is it Rightmove leads in? Is it people on the mailing list? Is it lost fouls?
It's honestly, it is such a mixed bag. You know, you may deal with an agency who is really hot at vendor prospecting, but what they aren't doing is contacting previous applicants who have properties to sell on the market, not on the market, selling privately. So it's a completely bespoke service for any and every agent that we work with.
Good stuff. What's the future of ProspectEngine?
We want to be synonymous with the title, you know, prospecting. And if ever anyone mentions prospecting, we want to be at the forefront.
So it's almost like the money penny of call handling.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, we partner with Money Pennies. They're our overflows provider.
I think it's fair to say we probably wouldn't have done this, would we, if Moneypenny hadn't been out there, proved the model in terms of, you know, that people would outsource to them. And
Because,
it's
interesting.
But it's a very different skill set.
Yeah, because Moneypenny are very good.
They're
Sometimes
excellent.
even you can't spot whether they are a call centre. And that must be the same with you, because there's plenty of firms out there that will just plough through a list.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a case of adding real value to the call and adding value to the agents that we're working with. You know, that's the key.
Good stuff. Well, probably in the next set of videos, we can talk about what things you've learned in prospecting. For the agents that do actually do prospecting, we could probably teach us a few things that they could go out and go away, if that's all right with you.
Absolutely.
And Simon, if you could talk about Brexit, that'd be brilliant as well. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Cheers.